Hey everyone, welcome to the Branding You webcast. So I'm gonna do like a sound check. I've got my chat up here so I could see you guys on the chat if you can hear me and can see me, and let me know. I'm going to uh, and I'll check out to go back and forth so you'll see me kind of gaze my attention, and that's when I'm gonna go back over to at the actual webinar page. And so with that, I want to make sure that you guys got both. So just checking, make sure that we are on both pages. And I also have my beautiful wife here who is my she's my tech person helping me out, so you're gonna see me look at her a few times because she's gonna help me, and she's got her headphones in, so she says I'm on delay, but she could see me, so let's see if she could hear me. And now she says she could hear me, so we're doing pretty good. All right, so welcome. I'm going to do this Brand You webinar, and this is for you guys who are either safety consultants or you're about to be, and you want to get yourself ready. So I've got this together. I'm going to give you a disclaimer right up front, and that disclaimer is I do have to mention my journey a little, so I don't want you to feel like if it is just me talking about me. So this is just my journey a little, and then some things that I picked up along the way. So I just want to make sure I mention that. And it's not a whole bunch of slides per se. It's more of me reviewing some of the things that I have done, just so that you know what you can do too. If it's worked for me, it could definitely work for you. So this is the branding side of it. I'm going to share my screen, and let's make sure I do this right because I want to share my screen and not my application. So you're going to see me kind of be a mirror of myself, and it's going to keep going back and forth like if I'm going into a fifth dimension. Now that you see that, my screen pretty soon come up. So I'm going to put up my screen on the presentation side. So now I will only have the presentation up, and hopefully you can see it. I'm going to wait for the delay because there will be a little delay between when you see my presentation show up and when you actually will hear me. So hopefully your delay will get caught up a little bit. So this is the basis of branding yourself, being your own brand. I've got a safety association, and the association that I work with, one of the marketing members, she always says, in quotes, hey Sheldon, I'm going to pimp your brand. And I think of it as hysterical because, truly that's what it boils down to when you come to being your own marketing person. So I tell you guys my background so you know where I'm coming from. So my certifications on the left, you will see I have a certificate for occupational safety managers. That's the COSM. I'm a certified occupational safety specialist. That's the COSS. I have a master's in public administration with a concentration in environmental policy. That's the MPA. And I am a professional operator, wastewater operator. I actually started in wastewater before I got into anything else, and that is the PO designation. So on the flip side, you're going to see my experiences. So yes, I've got my businesses, which is OSHA Compliance Help and Utility Compliance. I'm an authorized OSHA instructor for general industry and construction. I was a former adjunct instructor for Florida State College at Jacksonville in the OTI, which is OSHA Training Institute Education Center. And also a former instructor for Florida Gateway College in the environmental program. Currently, I'm a COSM instructor and a COS instructor, and I've been a subject matter expert for Red Vector and Safety Summit courses, which is like health science safety. So those are some of the things that you would basically about myself. I've done a bunch of other stuff, so I was saying this to actually give you an idea of what's coming. So these are all the different marketing things that I've been through to promote myself, to be my own boss, if you will, as well as my own marketing agent. So this webinar, I want to make sure that we understand the importance of first impression. I want to explain the certifications and designations, what they mean to you. Examine how to use domain names to brand yourself for brand awareness. And I just mentioned, but my bachelor's is in marketing. So I do have a marketing background there. Explore social media connections for personal branding. We're going to expand on the importance of email marketing and those campaigns. And then want to examine using groups and webinars and everything else for your personal branding. So want to do a quick check, make sure everyone can hear me okay. So if you can, I'm going to go right back to my my main page. So you're going to see me check. So I'm going to stop streaming, sharing just for a second. Actually, you'll see it, but hopefully it won't be too bad. So I'm going to look and make sure that in my chat that there's no messages saying that you can't hear me or you can't see me before I go any further. So looking good on that end. I'm also going to look on the webinar page of my mastermind group. So if you're on the mastermind group watching me, I want to make sure that if you do chat or do any questions there, that I'm watching you as well. So on those two entities I'm looking at, I don't see any. So it looks like we're good. So I'm going to go back to the presentation and then we'll keep going there. And again, if you do have any questions, just go ahead and type that in. You chat or do any questions. So I'm watching you as well. I'm going back. And here is the PowerPoint screen so you guys can see that. So first we'll start off with some marketing basics. So some of the marketing basics that I picked up, this is from my classroom. Marketing before used to be pretty much thinking of supply and demand. If you had someone who had a product, then you would say, okay, I've got this product, you want this product, marketing becomes easy because you want what I have. So that was the basics of marketing. So much that marketing has become more than just selling a product and putting up a billboard, because those things may not be effective. So bullet number 1 says, know your avatar. That avatar is a phrase that you'll hear, and kind of think of it as your kids or even you playing video games. And now in the video games, you got to set up what your player will look like. And that player could have a certain shape of face, certain shape of eyes, certain hair color. That is an avatar that you're building. So an avatar in this description is basically your target market. And that's a phrase that marketing has used since the beginning, your target market. So knowing your avatar is the basics. Who are you marketing to? Where do they work? What do they do for fun? Where do they hang out? What sex are they? What's their age? What level of understanding do they have? Are you seeking the executive person? Are you seeking the person that's bringing out? In our situation as being safety consultants, we're looking for someone who is going to be a decision maker. So our avatar may be someone that's gone to college and an advanced level, someone who has owned a business even on the level where it's a family business and so on. So we have to learn more and more about that person so we know where they hang out. When I first got started, I spent a lot of time doing these meetings where you could go in the morning and it's breakfast meetings, and usually you have your breakfast and then you're given about 3 minutes to talk about yourself. And these networking meetings were great at first to get my name out and get people having my card in their hand. However, I wasn't talking to decision makers. I was talking to other people that were pretty much trying to sell themselves or trying to sell their business. And if you're in network marketing, some most people think of it as multi-level marketing. That's a wonderful venue for that, where you could go and reach people, and you could give out cards. You could talk about your service, talk about your product, talk about what it is, and you're talking to the end user usually. So it's wonderful for that. But for my situation as being a safety consultant, those really weren't the end users. Those were people who knew people. And then there's a little barrier between me and the decision maker. So that didn't help me. So I needed to know the decision makers. Where do they go? What association do they belong to? What meetings do they spend the time to go to, or they let a representative at a high level go to and has some experience as well as can make decisions? Difference between knowing your avatar, and that's the basics for that marketing and the rest of this presentation. So I want to make sure that when I'm meeting them, I'm sincere, I'm actively listening to them. If they mention something that they need help with that's a service of mine, then now I could talk about collaboration, where it's a partnership as opposed to me kind of cramming something down their throat as you need a 10-hour construction class because I want to sell a 10-hour construction class. No, I've actually got to give them something that they need, something that they really want. And sometimes it takes educating the avatar as to their best needs. I had a city once contact me, and they wanted to do a job safety analysis on job descriptions. And if you're familiar with the job safety analysis, is by task, not by description. So for instance, a police officer actually have several different jobs in one day. So therefore, a JSA on each task is what they're looking for, not a job safety analysis on the job description. So once I was able to describe the client or a potential client really wanted from listening to them in that meeting, then I was able to say, all right, this is what you need, and give them a good proposal. So that's your basics right now on the marketing. That's where we're going to start. To build on that is your first impression. This one was tough for me at first. I didn't know what to do. I was printing up my own business cards, and right now I use Vistaprint, and there's several other business cards companies out there. Some of you are listening to me domestically in the U.S. Some of you are listening to me abroad and in different countries. So you would have to look for a price, the quality of the product. So right now, what I use is a two-sided card because I have two main businesses. So one side of the card is matte, one side's laminated, one side of the card has one business and the other side is the other one. It's the brainchild of my beautiful wife who has thought about that. So by feel, I could actually feel which card to give somebody. And I'm gonna stop sharing real quick so you guys can see this. I got a copy of it in my hand. As the camera switches back over to me and I stop sharing, so you guys are going to be able to see me. This is what this one looks like, and it's really it's pretty good in that it's basic, it's simple, but here you go. So I'm going to give the camera time to focus in. It's backwards to you, obviously, because you're looking at it differently. So you're going to see this. And that's one business. I've got my name, I've got all my information on it. I've got a QR reader over here. So if someone scans that, they will be able to see exactly my Facebook page, but you can make that QR code say any link that you want. Basically, that is a visual link to a website. That's what those codes are. So I'm going to show you another one. My wife just told me it's not backwards. So I'm actually seeing it backwards. So here you got my business card. Here's my other one. So this is the card that I give out. This is a matted side. So by feel, I know exactly which card to give to. So if I'm working with the utility, I'll give them the utility compliance card. If I'm working with a person who's under OSHA compliance, I'll give them that card. And again, I've got that QR code right here. They could scan that on their smart device. That particular link is taken up to my Facebook page, but you can make that link take anyone to anywhere. So the card should have your name, your phone number, your email address is even more important than your address. And you have to maximize your space. The back of the card, if you don't have two businesses or you're not using that, then the back of the card is prime real estate. You want to get that real estate to show exactly about your company, your business, what are you doing. So I use that back of my card to tell my services. So you can see in the picture on the right, if you giving it a little bit so the presentation will start lagging back up again. On that presentation on the right, you can see that I've got, that picture on the right. It's going to show you what I do. I got OSHA 10 hours outreach training. I could do reviews for written programs, mock OSHA work sites, audits, things. So those are some of the services that I provide. So when I'm making that first impression and I'm handing out my business card, they can actually have a card and reference something that if they're thinking of a service, if not, you may not be able to put all your services on this, but you can at least make sure that the main things, the money-making things or the things that you do often are on that card so that you can also promote yourself at the same time as introducing yourself. So it solves some problems. I've had some people grab my card and say, hey, I've been looking for a mock OSHA audit. I didn't know anyone that did this. And right there is on the card, so they know that. Keynote speaking, so that's all there. Meeting, or you're shaking that hand. You could also give them a flyer, you could also give them a brochure, but that first introduction is really going to get that door open, and don't push anything to them to try to get them to commit at that point. It's not going to work, and it's going to give you some frustration. So you're not looking for a commitment at that point, you're looking for an introduction. And that introduction can lead to something else. It could lead to a further meeting. And that's great. That's what you want. You want those meetings so you guys could collaborate on something. You want it to be participative, give and take between you two. So in that business card, you'll notice on both sides, I have my certificates and designations. So I wanted to make sure I pointed that out in the beginning when I was introducing myself. Those letters behind your name are a strong indicator and a visual for people, just so that they know that you have some sort of training. They don't know you per se in the first meeting. So they're going to have to assume a certain amount of things. They're going to profile you, if you will. And that's okay. So you want to make sure that the profile that they're building for you is going to be directed a little bit. And that direction is going to be through your designations. So if you don't have a safety designation yet, as safety consultants, it's important for you to grow your business. And the best way to grow your business under first impressions is through those designations and certificates. That's that old phrase, you got to spend money to make construction. Course, which is the train the trainer. There's a prerequisite, which is the 510, and that is a 30-hour course for you to get your OSHA certificate to be an authorized instructor. The 10 and 30-hour classes are really good to start a business, so you can at least do that type of training and meet other people. And I'll talk about that a little later. So those certificates, those designations, it gives you some clout. It opens the door a little for you. It'll help you promote and market yourself a little bit more. Just choose the designation right. I've heard a lot about CSP, which is Certified Safety Professional, versus COSS, COSS. CSP program right now is a strong designation because of the years it's been out. I am not a CSP. I do hold the COSS certificate and the COSM certificate, and I did that for a reason. I do qualify for the CSP. However, when I was an actual safety officer, I needed something practical right now that's going to help me in my job and give me a designation for some clout. It was a week-long class, and I've got a video on that, so you guys can find that video if you do go to my, we do have a Facebook group, and I'll just make sure I mention that to you guys later, but I'll start mentioning it to you now. It's facebook.com/groups/safety consultant, no S, safety consultant. So you can get into that closed group, and I do have a video on the different designations, and I kind of have that video on a few other groups too. So you may have seen me if you're on a Facebook safety group with that video. But designations are very important to have. So another part of your branding, it has to go back to where people are today. So if I was doing this video 20 years ago, I wouldn't be talking about domain names like I would now. However, there are so many different types of domain name extensions now. The extension is that little letters after the dot. So as you see in the presentation, there's got .org, .eu, .ca, .org, .com. .com is still king, meaning if I had, and I do, sheldonprimus.com, it would mean a little bit more to people than sheldonprimus.net or sheldonprimus.us. So I do own sheldonprimus.com. If you were to go to sheldonprimus.com, you'll see where I have my books and some of my training classes and everything. So that's a very strong indicator that you have a brand there because you have your own name. I've even seen people hijack brands, meaning, I'll give you an example. When I first got started, my first business was utility compliance. So I did the utilitycompliance.com, and I had that name, and I was using that because I wanted the hosting service and I wanted the email service. I wanted my emails to say sheldon@utilitycompliance.com. And that's very important. I don't know if I mentioned that before. I should have in the cards. When you're getting your cards, you need this step before your cards because you definitely need to have a domain name that's professional in your email address. So when you buy a domain name from a hosting service, from one of the domain marketers, I should say, GoDaddy, GatorHost, some of those companies, your extension to that domain, that utility compliance, you could then start your email at whatever that domain name is. So back to my story. I was 2 years in, and it was time to renew. And I had sheldon@utilitycompliance.com, and I let it go because either money situation or whatever it was. I can't remember. I just let it go. I didn't put any importance on that domain name. I got a letter from someone that actually bought my domain name for like $8 or whatever it was. And now they owned my brand. And they owned it, and they hijacked my own brand. Can you believe that? So what do I have to do? I had to pay $200 to get my brand name back so I could start using sheldon@utilitycompliance.com on my cards. I actually bought utilitycompliance.net so that if I couldn't get the name back, I would have an alternative, but I did get the name back, and I got both .com, .net. I don't let it lapse. I don't want to be hijacked again. But that's the importance of brand names, especially nowadays. And there's a lot of extensions, so don't give up if your extension isn't available. If your domain name in the extension you want isn't available, meaning you may not ever get safety.com. Something like that is worth roughly around $700,000 to $800,000 to buy that domain name. It could be more. So you might have to do a .net, a .xyz. And if you look at the bottom of each one of these slides, you'll see the mastermind group that I started. And that mastermind group is for safety consultants. And you'll see mastermind.safetyconsultant.xyz. And you got the membership link there. But that .xyz is one that is an extension that's coming up and coming. So I wanted to grab it real quick. I know that it's good brand name for different countries. It's China now accepted that as a country code. .com is not widely accepted without another extension, meaning .com.uk, .com.ca. So very important to get that branding in because you could get your email service. So there you go. There's the basics. So let's move on a little bit because I got you now, which is about 25 minutes in to the active presentation, so right about that halfway mark. So let's talk about your social media side. You're using social media as a way to brand yourself and make yourself bigger than you are. I am an entity of one officially, meaning my business size is one. However, I get help from my wife. I get help from the kids sometimes. I do have other consultants I work with, but they're not employees. But if you look up Ocean Compliance Help, if you do a Google search for Sheldon Primus, you do a search for utility compliance, you'll see that I've got a presence on Facebook, on Twitter. Ocean Compliance Health has a presence on Instagram. Those things are what you're going to do to add it's basically like real estate in the internet market. So that real estate is going to help you brand yourself to more people than you can just by shaking hands at networking meetings. So that brand, and LinkedIn is one of the big ones for professionals right now. So you're going to brand yourself through that presence. And when you're using Facebook, LinkedIn, uh, YouTube for blogging and videos, that's what you're going to do with those presents. You want to start blogging. Blogging is just a journal that you do online about safety topics, about topics of interest to your avatar. A vlog is a video blog, and that's some things that you'll see in my Safety Consultant Mastermind group. I do video blogs on the Safety Consultant Facebook group that's free and open. It's actually a closed group, but it's free. So I do a lot of those video blogs now as a new feature, just so I could reach out and make sure people get information they need. You could do this for your clients. You could do blogs and vlogs for your clients to make sure that you keep them engaged. So that's what you're going to use your social media for. It's like a business card, but it's an active business card, and it builds your brand. It makes your company look bigger than it is. So when you're on those things, then the next thing I would say, and this is the page right here is showing you, do a company page on Facebook, a company page on LinkedIn, a company page on Twitter, Instagram, and those are some of the things that you want to do, as well as start a group. About 3 years ago now, I started a group for wastewater management because that's my other hat. I do water environmental a lot. And then the other side, I started a group called Ocean Compliance Help, the name of my business. So I started a business group, and I started an actual group on LinkedIn. So those two groups right now, I believe the Ocean Compliance Help has about right under 1,000 members. The wastewater management group, I've got right about, I think 500 to 600 members. The Facebook group that I have, and you'll see that link that I mentioned earlier, now you can actually see it, facebook.com/group/safety consultant. That's a group that I just started maybe about 2 months ago. 300 members. We just passed the 300 member mark. That's actually helping you brand. It's helping me brand. So that's what you want to do. Go ahead and start these groups. If you have many social media that you want to upload different items or topics or notes, you could use something like Hootsuite or MeetEgger. And both of those are services where you type in your message on Hootsuite or MeetEgger, and they will update all of your social media at the same time. So you don't have to think about closing Facebook, opening LinkedIn, closing this one and open the other one and doing your post. You can do them all at the same time. That's branding you at once using a service that'll help you. So MeetEgger is one, and Hootsuite. There's a bunch of all of these that work together. So I do use it a lot. And you need to have a Gmail account to do a YouTube page because that's how it works. But don't use that Gmail account for your email marketing. Don't use that Gmail account for your business cards, because nothing's worse than getting a professional business card with someone's Gmail on it. You want to see their name at their company that's already branded through an actual company. So those are some things that you're going to use. Email marketing. So see how that last section's led right into this? Email marketing is a big thing for building your brand because you may only see somebody one time, but if you have their email and they're checking their email, you could always stay in contact with them. One of the email services is called Constant Contact for a reason because you are constantly wanting to contact your email list. If you don't have a list, you don't have an online business. Without an online business, you're only set up to serve people in your community. You're not really going to be able to serve anyone else. So I drive. I drive a lot, and sometimes I drive to meet clients that I've met through email marketing. They signed up for a product, they signed up for a service, they signed up for a freebie that I was giving online or through LinkedIn, and I get their email, I capture that email, I cherish it. I don't send them spam. I just send them information that they would need, and through that, it builds the business. Some of the things that you could do. The email marketing, especially when you get very, very technical with it, it can really save you some time. And what do I mean by technical? There's a thing called autoresponders. Brilliant thing. It's really a good use. I use an email service called ConvertKit, and I'm going to write a video on ConvertKit and how I use it soon. If you go to safetyconsultants.xyz/resources, I do have a ConvertKit, just a little bit about that. So an autoresponder is where I could set up communication over a certain length of time. So for instance, right now I have one with proposals. You could get a free proposal that I use, and I do very detailed proposals because that's also part of your branding. So you get a free proposal using my template, and in exchange, I get your first name and your email. So that email and that first name, that connection now starts a conversation. So I believe it's over I think it's roughly around a 10-day period. The persons that sign up with that is going to get an email from me regarding proposals, how to use that proposals, how to start their safety consultant business, and it's going to give them value on something that they need because I already know from the avatar that that's what they need, and it gives me a way to keep that contact up. From first handshake, first impression to actual business may take 6 months to a year. So you have to keep these things going. You have to make sure that you always have some way of reaching out to your target market. So what I use ConvertKit, and there's several other of these. Some people use a group called Aweber and Mailchimp. Mailchimp is not as robust. It's a very basic one. It's a good start. I started with Mailchimp. But with the ConvertKit, I could also segment my group since I do environmental and I do wastewater and I do safety and health. I could basically send a message out to each one of these groups independently without cross-referencing them and giving someone who doesn't care about wastewater wastewater email. A good thing to have. If you do not have one of these lists, you need to get one. You definitely have to do it. So another one of building your brand. Speaking engagements. It builds your credibility. And one of the things that you could really do is offer some of these speaking engagements for free. Join an association or partner with an association. And once you do, and like when I say association, I mean a safety association. I belong to ASSE, which is now going to be ASSP. So I belong to ASSE. I'm actually the president of the South Florida chapter of ASSE. But before I got involved with them, I actually started out as speaking for them. So I'm in front of the group in South Florida and I'm doing my presentations and people asking me questions, asking for my cards. And I was able to actually get some business from just speaking for free. And eventually I became a member because they kept inviting me back. And now I'm president of that actual chapter. However, I do this with several other associations, several other entities, and for the reason of providing value and building my brand. So I provide value to my avatar and I build a brand at the same time. So it's a win-win. They get information they need and I get a valued resource in that association's credibility. being promoted by this association as their featured speaker. Therefore, all their members feel that if the association thinks I'm credible, then I should be someone that they could reach out to. So I leverage their credibility for my business. So that's why I do those things often. And don't stop there. Get that information that you have from your speaking engagements, and then you have to follow up. And the last bullet shows you that the riches are in the follow up. You always hear the phrase, the riches are in the niches. Yeah, that's part of it. You definitely need a niche market. And if you're a safety consultant, that's your niche. Uh, However, you can't get anywhere without follow up. You need to follow up. Well, I just did a video for the safety consulting group on Facebook about reviving dead leads. So those are some things that you'll get in that safety consultant group. How to revive dead leads, because you need the follow up. The follow up is very important. You could also ask for a booth, a table where you could put your cards on a flyer in exchange for speaking. So you may not be getting paid, but you are still getting something for your time. And so that's another way of doing it. I'm going to spend a little time with this one. So becoming a subject matter expert. That one is kind of tricky, and it's not something that you could do just from day one, usually. SME is the abbreviation for that one, so you may have seen SME somewhere else. I started doing this because people reached out to me in several different ways. One was through speaking engagements, so I built the client base from actually going out and speaking to some groups, and then it became a kind of like a pattern. So I actually am a licensed wastewater operator in my career when I was actually working for someone else. So I came into the game already knowing environmental. And I knew Title 40, EPA title, before I knew Title 29, which is OSHA's title. So I knew the environmental stuff really well, and I had to learn the other stuff with labor. So when I got into my own business, I decided that I wanted to do something that's going to help me stand out. So I was looking for some of these ways that I could actually help people with their problems by being a subject matter expert. I looked at was Elance. They don't have Elance anymore. It's now called Upworks. So I signed up. I got a Upwork Elance profile, and I put all of the things that I was really good at. And people actually look for professional freelance either writers or freelance speakers, or if they want you to review something that they did. And what I got first was a review of OSHA compliance doc expert, going to the OSHA standards and looking back and forth. And once you do one, then now you are a subject matter expert. So you just keep going to the next. Same thing, I had a robust LinkedIn profile, and I'll kind of digress with this. Using LinkedIn is a business account, a business service. So make sure your picture is a picture that's active. Don't use the picture where just you standing there with your tie and suit on and just a nice little headshot, like if you're going for a glamour shot pose. That actually is a little basic. You want to do an action shot, maybe a shot of you doing a presentation. You want an action shot of you in the field. Something like that will be a good for your LinkedIn profile. Then the next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that LinkedIn profile has every certificate you did. If you wrote an article or a journal, and we'll talk about that next, you want to put that on your profile, update those when you can. That you certifications, all those things you're going to put on your LinkedIn profile. I had a bunch of webinar companies reach out to me just to do webinars for them because of my LinkedIn profile. So I accepted. I've got something like 5,600 connections right now on LinkedIn because I get them all the time. And sometimes I reach out, and sometimes they come in. Sometimes it's people who's in one of my groups, and they'll want to connect with me and talk to me a little bit about something I posted on the blog or something they read, or they have a question on OSHA compliance. I'm a specialist in OSHA compliance when it comes to record keeping, so I get a lot of record keeping questions. Insurance groups call me, and those are some of the things that keep snowballing. And some of that was from a LinkedIn profile, but LinkedIn is going to be it might last. It may be something else that's coming in the future. I don't know. But right now, it's the one thing that you should really invest in if you're a professional, especially a consultant. So that's how I got into the subject matter expert and the freelancing. You could do that too. The association connections, safety councils can be a strong connection for you. Join safety councils and leverage their actual member base to help you grow, and give them value. Give them that value for free. Give them that value for your services at a very low price. You could even do a percentage. I do percentage with safety councils on my OSHA training. So I could do a 30-hour class, and they'll get 25% of the 30-hour class I'm doing. And that's going to help a win-win situation for them. Career management groups. There's also some groups that are corporate management groups. So basically, you could be the subject matter expert in safety compliance for one of these groups. Therefore, they're going to want to go to you for that kind of work. Being an author. I just recently authored a book about 7 steps to starting a profitable safety consulting business. If you're on Amazon.com, you can look it up. So just go to Amazon.com. You can look it up by name, or you can just type in Sheldon Primus under ebooks. And now I actually have an ebook out there. So that being an author also helps with your subject matter expert. I could also tell you about Gumroad. Gumroad is one of those things Gumroad is a way to sell your books outside or product outside of Amazon or one of the other companies. So you could use that. That's a resource for you. This flows right into an instructor, into a training. So once you do instructing, once you start doing training, as long as it's not a conflict of interest between you and your students, you can actually use this as adult learners. They're also people that are running safety programs. There are people who are safety officers. There are people that are influential to the owners. So breaks, I also do it on off times. People may ask me about what I do, how do I do it, how do I become a consultant, is there resources, do you do this type of service? And after class, I may actually have some business out of this because the students have whatever time period with me. They see me, they know my personality, they feel like they could trust me, they may know my expertise, so therefore, it could build my business, and it's wonderful for that. You could do a networking sheet in your class, so after class is over, where there isn't a conflict of interest, now you can reach out to them, get them on your email list, constant contact with them, keep that email marketing through your campaigns with them. Talked about webinars, I talked about special services offers a little, but with your email marketing, you could do something called a lead page. So a lead page is where I could say you could get one of the things I did was the silica. When we started with the silica standard in the US, one of the requirements if your workers are exposed to silica is that you need a written program. So with a written program, I actually put up a template of a written program, and people now could click on my silica page and put in your email, put in your name, and now you could get a sample of the actual, or you could get, the template of the silica program. So that's a lead page. So I'm getting a lead for giving some value. So templates are good for that. Checklists, presentations, reports. You want to be top of mind. for people when they think of safety right now as a safety consultant. You want to be top of mind to them, saying, "Oh yeah, I know the consultant. This person does this." Registration page. So each one of you did register for the webinar. I thank you so much for being here with me. Registration, you had to put in your email and your name. So yes, you had to opt in to being part of my email list, and part of the email list also gives you a little area where you can opt out and say, well, thanks, Sheldon, but right now it's too much. That's also a part of it. That's why you need those email lists, because you give that person that's on the list that freedom to say, I want to opt in or I want to opt out. So those are some of the things you think about. Here's one of the things I didn't mention yet, but it's a strong side. There's a thing called pixels. And if you haven't heard of Facebook Pixels yet, a pixel is a 1x1, I guess it's a 1x1 dot, if you will, and that's a pixel on your screen. And each one of your screens, including your TV, is made up of thousands of pixels to give you that actual screen. So this little code, HTML code, is so small that you can't see it. So when people, for instance, if you ever looked on Amazon or maybe did some internet shopping and you're looking at a page, or you're on ASSC, they're really good at this. And then all of a sudden on your Facebook page or on your Instagram feed, you're going to see something that you just saw when you're looking at it. And you're like, how do they know that I needed this product? I didn't even mention anything. I didn't do that. I didn't search on Facebook for my ASSC Safety Fest. Right now is going on, Safety Fest 2018. So I go to ASSC site all the time. So they pixeled me. They put a little code in my on my actual they call it cookies. And so that's all technical, but they're tracking me. So basically Facebook will track you. Google has pixels. Google will track you, all your internet uses, and then they will give you advertising that's specific to you because you already looked for it. So that means you are a warm audience. You're a targeted audience for this person. So if ASSE, for instance, knows that I've been looking at the Seminar Fest and want to know about it, they now could follow me through a Facebook pixel and send me their ads every time that I go on there. On Instagram feed, send me their ad. You could do that. You can actually set up a Facebook pixel. You put a little code on your actual home page, and it'll be actually on all your website. So anytime someone goes to a website for an offer page, anytime they go to your website just to find out about you, they will be pixeled, and then when you're ready to spend dollars on advertising, you will actually be able to reach them not only when they come to your page, but when they're doing searches on all the other groups, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. So that's one way to get your advertising in. Then there's other advertisings, Google AdWords, where it's similar to the pixels, but you'll see a little corner of someone's webpage where there is ad that means something to you. So that's Google AdWords. Twitter has ads. LinkedIn has ads. It really depends on your budget. But those ads actually builds your brand. So it helps you reach out to more people. So those are some of the things. If you're going to do ads, video ads versus word text ads are better. Text ads are good. You'll need the text ads, but video ads are better. Because people could see you, they can interact with you, they could hear you, they could see your background. So some of those things are a little bit better if you're going to start branding, but complex than that. But just don't waste your money on Facebook ads without knowing your analytics. And that's another webinar altogether. So that's a long learning lesson there too. So we might have to do a webinar on actual advertising. So that is